Hello. Welcome to this forum for candidates who will be on your primary election ballot. I'm Liz Kernitz-Thurlow from the League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County. The purpose of the League of Women Voters is to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation in government. We've worked with the Community Council of Tacoma and TV Tacoma to present these forums. Primary elections in municipal races are only held when more than 2 candidates have filed. This year, we have 2 Port of Tacoma races, 1 school board race, and 1 Tacoma City Council race, each with 3 candidates. So these are the only 4 which will be presented now. The primary election is August 6th. You must deposit your ballot in a drop box or get it postmarked by that date. They recommend mailing early if you are mailing in your ballot. The 2 candidates in each primary race who get more votes will continue on to the general election. In October, we will present forums with the 2 candidates still in each of these races and for all of the other races which will be on your ballot. Questions have been prepared by the Community Council of Tacoma and the League of Women Voters, with additional suggestions by other community members. Questions will be asked by members of the Community Council of Tacoma. Questions from the audience will be asked by a member of the League of Women Voters. Citizen participation in government is a cornerstone of democracy. Voting is another. If you're watching this, you're an involved citizen and we thank you. Please follow it up by voting. Thank you for watching. I urge you to do all that you can to select the candidates whom you feel best represent what you want for yourself and your community. Welcome to this forum for primary election candidates for Tacoma City Council at-large position 7. This is a 4-year term, and the position represents all of the residents of Tacoma. The 2 candidates getting more votes will advance to the November general election. The candidates are, in ballot order, Brett Johnson, Courtney Love, and Conor McCarthy. Welcome and thank you all for being here. The timekeeper is Susan Eidenschink, and she will enforce all of the timing rules so that each candidate is given the same amount of time to answer all of the same questions. The questions will be asked by members of the community and neighborhood councils of Tacoma and have been prepared by them and by the League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County. Questions from the audience will be asked by Marty Webb, a member of the League. Each candidate now gets up to 1 minute for an opening statement, and we begin with Brett Johnson.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity for being here. My name is Brett Johnson. I am running for Tacoma City Council at-large position 7. I am a Tacoma native. I grew up in the east side and later moved to the north end for my high school years and graduated from Stadium High School. After high school, I did an enlistment in the Air Force as an air traffic controller. Later moved on to the Federal Aviation Administration as an air traffic controller. And then after about 10 years outside of the area, I came home and started a business, now a local business owner, and looking forward to running for city council to contribute to the community.
Thank you. Courtney Love.
Thank you for having me. My name is Courtney Love. I'm running for Tacoma City Council, position 7. I am Tacoma born and raised. I have worked in retail and healthcare, and I have also experienced the struggle that is common among Tacoma. And so I am a unique voice in that I am well prepared to address the concerns of my neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Conor McCarthy.
My name's Conor McCarthy, and I'm running for re-election because I love our city and I want to continue to make Tacoma a better place to raise a family, get an education, build a career, and retire. I'm proud of our accomplishments over the past 3.5 years on the council, but we have much more work to do. As your council member, my job is to fight for you. On the council, I fought to restore the city's police and fire departments, invest in safe routes to schools so that all Tacoma children can get to and from school safely, and fix our streets with more than 1,600 blocks completed. over the past few years. We still have more work to do in our city to grow more living wage jobs, address homelessness, increase affordable housing, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions with result-driven solutions. I believe Tacoma's future is in our hands and that we must set the table for our children by working together in earnest to build a brighter destiny. I would be honored to have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We move on to questions. The questions will be asked by Liz Burris and Ginny Eberhardt. Liz Burris will ask the first question. And if I don't specify otherwise, you will have 60 seconds to answer. And the order of answering rotates with each question. Therefore, Courtney Love will answer the first question first.
The current City Council is looking at the results from our recent recycling survey and the problems with the current program. What do you think we should be doing? And how important is reducing our waste stream to you? And what suggestions for collection and education do you have?
Thank you. I'll start with the end of that. I promote, right now we elect precinct committee officers, but none of us have committees. So I want to see committees developed within each precinct. This will increase dialogue through neighborhoods. It'll help disseminate information from the city and other levels of government down to the average person, the citizens of Tacoma. I want to see precinct parties and so that this information can be disseminated. The recycling is very important, and that I think that's the best way to get the information out there, what the new rules are. I want to see local recycling as much as possible, and we can improve the system as that exists. Thank you.
Thank you. Conor McCarthy.
Thank you. So recycling has changed, as we're aware, in terms of China raising the standard for the level of contamination they will accept. And so what that means, this is actually a good thing for our community. It's good that the standards are raised for what can and can't be shipped across seas to recycle, because what that is going to have us do as a community is really focus on improving our efforts at doing that work up front in Tacoma. What the voters will see very soon is a proposal to increase the rates to address those costs. But what myself and others are working on with people in industry and people in the environmental community is how we can reduce our waste stream in Tacoma by actually creating a commodities industry to recycle the paper and plastic within our communities. So this challenge of the increased cost of recycling is actually going to be a great opportunity for our community.
Thank you. Brett Johnson.
I think that community outreach is a key part of improving or enhancing any of our existing policies for trash disposal or recycling. And I think similar to what Conor just commented on global changes in the process, it is a necessary thing for us to investigate the things that we can do locally to curb some of those costs and be effective and overall achieve a higher rate of recycling as we are a green city. And I think that's something that everybody in the city wants.
Thank you. Ginny Eberhardt will ask the next question, and Conor McCarthy will answer it first.
15 years ago, our Human Rights Commission and the ACLU proposed an independent auditor to participate in investigation of police conduct, with the auditor being monitored by a citizens review panel. However, the City Council only approved a citizens panel to review police department policies. This is the Citizens Police Advisory Committee. Would you support revisiting this proposal for an independent oversight of police conduct investigations, and why or why not?
So Absolutely. I'd be willing to consider that and learn more about the history of it. I've been around city government. I worked here for 7 years as a lawyer and then as a manager, and that's the first I've ever heard of the independent audit at the Citizens Review Panel for the Tacoma Police. I will say we're extremely proud at the city of what we've been able to accomplish these last 2 budgets in restoring police officers in our city. We 4 or 5 years ago had, because of the previous budget difficulties, had really seen a decline in the number of police officers serving our city. And in a city that's expecting 100,000 more people by 2040, making sure we have enough men and women in uniform there to respond to your calls is absolutely one of the most important things we do in local government. So I'm happy to, while at least I still have the job for the moment, work on that with you all. Thanks.
Thank you. Brett Johnson.
I think citizen involvement in policing is definitely an important thing to make sure that the police department is achieving and executing things in accordance with the citizens' expectations, and in kind of a check and balance to make sure that everybody is getting due process in their engagements with the police officers. I would like to learn more specifically about the role and authority that an advisory panel may have, just to make sure that there's not a overreaching advisory component, but I do support it.
Thank you. Courtney Love.
I do support community oversight and community policing tactics. I support Campaign Zero's 10 policies they want to see enacted by police departments. Washington has successfully passed 3 and/or 4, depending on whether not this 4th one has gone through. It was passed by the state legislature, but it was sent back to the voters. We need to make sure that the police have more education, more training, and don't violate citizens' rights in an attempt to protect property.
Thank you. Liz Burris, your question, please. Brett Johnson will answer this one first.
Regarding homelessness, what are your plans to help people get shelter and permanent housing? How can we coordinate all agencies and involve the total community?
So this is a great question. This topic is actually what inspired me to run for council. I think locally, my personal experience in operating a business on the east side would definitely engage with some homeless folks on a regular basis. I think that locally, there's kind of 3 broad buckets that have gotten lumped into one. So that component being homeless or living poor, drug addicted folks, and mental illness. And I think by finding some lanes to separate those services, we can get everybody the services that they need to help address the problem. And I think I'd call on the leadership of the policies that the state of Utah has implemented for temporary housing and for improving work skills or helping provide work skills and treatment. San Diego has also had a pretty effective policy that they've got underway that I think we might be able to borrow from.
Thank you. Courtney Love.
I see homelessness as an intersection of multiple aspects. I think there are tiers of homelessness, and the chronically homeless often have addiction and mental health issues, and they can't be separated. They all have to be addressed at once. I think that another tier of homelessness are the people who are the working poor. They're living in their cars, but they have jobs. They don't have addiction issues. And then the next tier are the people who are slipping out of housing because of the increased. So I'd like to discuss rent control. I know it's not allowed within the state at the state law level, but we need to revisit that. We need to look at transitional housing. We need to look at fully public housing. As Brett mentioned, the Utah program, I also like the Vienna Housing Project, where the city itself purchases properties, and then the people who are slipping out of housing or the working poor, they can be put into those public housing. I support fully public housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Conor McCarthy.
So this is one where I think you can be proud of what the city of Tacoma has done over the last 2 years. 2 years ago, we declared a state of emergency in homelessness. We funded a site which was originally called the transition site, now the stability site, that provides shelter for about 90 or so individuals. And the goal of this facility was not just to provide shelter, but to actually provide a transformative experience in case management to help those individuals house there, find permanent supportive housing. This has been an evolving process. We've been learning as we go and trying to improve. A lot of what we do there, in addition to helping, is also holding those individuals accountable with different rules that are set. But I'm proud to report that 91 people who are living on the streets of Tacoma because of that effort now are in permanent housing. We still lack permanent supportive housing in this community. Many of the chronically homeless need 24-hour care, so we need to focus on that, and we need to up our game in terms of our partners. We've passed 2 ordinances to try and make it easier for nonprofits to help in sheltering. So we've got lots of work to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenny Eberhardt, please direct your next question to Courtney Love first.
If elected, what would you focus on doing to strengthen the city of Tacoma's economy?
I would include community planning in our city planning as we increase density, population density, and build up. I want to see small business locations planned into those developments. I want to focus on local businesses. I'd like to see a municipal bank to increase small business loans. I would like to see a tax on the scooters and bike rentals that we see around town. And that's my economic plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Conor McCarthy.
Well, there's a lot of things we're working on right now. One is we have a new economic development director. We are working on a new economic development strategy, one that we've never had before. But one of the things we really need to do in this city is grow more local employers. Either local employers like InfoBlocks are adding 100 more people if they're already here, or recruiting employers. Washington State has seen a boom in the tech industry, in the Boeing, and in aerospace, but most of those good paying jobs have been up on the east side up north, and 40 or so thousand people a day drive out of Pierce County up north. So we need to figure out, and we haven't sorted it out yet, we need to figure out how to recruit some of these good employers into our community. And second to that, we need to connect the people in Tacoma with those jobs. I'm proud to serve on the board of Workforce Central, where we're doing just that. We're seeking out the underemployed and the disconnected youth in this community, and we're providing training like pre-apprenticeship training, apprenticeship training to connect those individuals with good paying jobs.
Thank you. Brett Johnson.
I favor a plan for strengthening the economy of kind of a marketing and outreach to capitalize on the proximity that the city has to assets like the port. Deepwater Port's a big one for living wage jobs and blue-collar families. I think we could also lean a little bit on our proximity to the Seattle tech industry and the tech talent that's available from there, and we could potentially get some tech employers that would borrow or recruit out of that pool, or possibly from within the city for those that are already commuting outside the area. But I do think there is a big opportunity for reaching out and attracting some larger employers, anchor employer, if you will, to come to the area and give us kind of a base to continue to build the services that we want for the less fortunate.
Thank you. Our next 2 questions come from the audience. Marty Webb will ask them, and Conor McCarthy will answer the first one first.
This one's about your position on the small business enterprise. If elected, what special actions will you take to increase the small business enterprise participation on city projects?
Well, I can tell you, having been an attorney here who was the counsel for our what we now call the historically underutilized business program, this is something the city's focusing on. We also have a program called Local Employment and Apprenticeship Program. Last year, that code said we had a 15% goal. We didn't do a good job of enforcing that goal and hiring local folks and apprentices, and so we changed it. We doubled it up. Now it's a 15% requirement. that you either be local, live here, or be an apprentice here. And we also expanded it. So now it's not just in the city of Tacoma, it's everywhere Tacoma Public Utilities builds a capital project. So there is a great deal of focus right now in the city at connecting small businesses, minority women businesses, particularly with the passage of I-1000, basically the rollback of the previous initiative. You're going to see the city doing a much better job engaging and reaching out to the community and making sure that when we spend city dollars, we're spending it on businesses who are in our community, and we're raising up those businesses.
Thank you. Brett Johnson.
For strengthening the local small business economy, for which I'm a part, I'm definitely have a soft spot for that. I think it's really important for the city to transact and foster small business the best that it can. And I think also, conversely, when you file for a new business license, there aren't really that many resources for a young business owner to learn all the different regulations and paths or opportunities that are out there. So I'd support a program for a little bit more outreach coupled with new business licenses to help foster things like that.
Thank you. Courtney Love.
Yes, as I mentioned, I'd like to see more access to space for small businesses. I like, as Conor mentioned, the contracts that extend residential requirements to city contracts and let's see, I'm sorry.
You done?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
We have one more question from the public, and we're running out of time, so talk faster. You get 45 seconds. And Brett Johnson will answer first.
And this question is from a 5th grade student in Tacoma Public Schools. What do you think about the city's interactions with ICE? What do you think about the city's interactions with ICE, the immigration?
Gotcha. This is a tough one for me. I got stumped by a 5th grader. I'm not actually particularly directly familiar with the city's interactions with ICE. I did, during the endorsement interview process with the Educators Association, face a question of the same nature. And I would support policy where the ICE agents probably should be staying out of schools. I don't think that's an appropriate platform for their mission to take place. And beyond that, I don't have very much to say about it.
Thank you. Courtney Love.
I think having a detention center at our port makes us complicit in the racist policies of the Trump administration. It makes us complicit in the abuse that is reported from those facilities, and I'd like to see its closure and the liberation of our community members that reside within. Those people were not detained because of criminal action, but because of misdemeanor border crossing, which is an arbitrary line. We need to end our alliance with Northwest Detention Center and Geo Group. Thank you.
Thank you. Conor
Can you
McCarthy.
repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Sure. What do you think about the city's interactions with ICE?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that with the mayor, several council members met with ICE in Washington, D.C. I've toured the facility here. The bottom line is there's a large sector of our community that doesn't have any trust with how people are treated at this facility, and I have a major problem with that. We've seen our health department be able to provide some oversight on to the chicken pox and whatnot, but there really isn't any trust with that organization. I believe that we need immigration reform at the federal level, and I believe there needs to be a dialogue and there needs to be local oversight of the facility. We can't close it down. We don't have the jurisdiction or authority to close it down, but we need to establish a relationship so that we can verify that detainees are treated properly while they're here.
Thank you. This will be the last question. Courtney Love will answer it first, and the question will be asked by Liz Burris.
Okay. There's lots of opposition to the LNG plant. So I'd like to get your opinion about the bad and the good points about completing this project in our port.
The good is limited in that it is strictly an improvement in local air quality, but overall emissions will create a negative on a global scale. We can apply other solutions for the local improvement. In having LNG in Tacoma, we are complicit in the damage of fracking and the missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls that are reported near and around fracking centers, the pipeline leaks, and any potential negatives that come from the burning locally. It is at a physically susceptible location, susceptible to tsunami, liquefaction, lahar flow, and sea level rise. It is in a population dense space, and it is inappropriately located at the Port of Tacoma. So I do not support the LNG facility processing plant at all. And I do feel that while they say it's not for export, it is only a matter of time before they inform us that it is indeed for export. Thank you.
Thank you. Conor McCarthy.
Sure. I think that it's a cleaner alternative to the diesel and bunker fuel. These ships that call from Alaska, these towed ships that call from Alaska, with this project, the air gets cleaner in our community. The upstream effects are not negligible. I don't believe LNG is the solution, but I do believe it's better for the air in our community. The bad part about this project is really just driven a wedge between a lot of folks in this community when we all have the same common goal, which is how do we improve the air quality in the city of Tacoma? How do we move ourselves much quicker off of fossil fuel dependency? LNG, I think, is a step in the right direction, but it's certainly not the solution. We, as a city, can and will, you'll see us, work much harder on electrification of vehicles in our cities. 70% of the bad air in our town is coming from all our vehicles. So we're going to be investing more in electric car infrastructure. We have clean energy in Tacoma. It comes from our hydro projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Brett Johnson.
I think the LNG project is a necessary stepping stone as a gateway out of bunker oil. There's a global sulfur emissions cap going into place in January 1st, 2020, and all maritime engines are going to start moving towards this because industry-wide, this is the easiest way for them to comply with the step. And while I don't think it is by any means the end means for the next fuel, I think it's a necessary stepping stone. And I also think that, if we take a different approach to it and also consider the jobs that we're ensuring and preserving, not just at the plant, but for the people that load and unload the ships, the people that work on the ships, the cargo on the ships that we purchase, that people outside of the area purchase. I think the broader implication of not having it and the fact that eventually the industry is moving that way anyway, that we would then have a port with no gas station for ships. So I do support it.
Thank you. Okay, now you each have up to 1 minute for a closing statement. Reversing our order, Conor McCarthy will make the first closing statement.
Thank you, and thank you, Tacoma, for giving me this opportunity to serve you. My vision is for a Tacoma that truly lives, breathes, and grows as the city of destiny for everyone who calls Tacoma home, for good living wage jobs and economic opportunity across our city, for outstanding K-12 and higher education, which helps all Tacoma youth succeed, for clean air, clean water, and strong environmental protections and environmental stewardship, for ample affordable housing, which we desperately need, great public parks, and vibrant arts and recreational opportunities, for a city that fosters innovation and entrepreneurship and provides a robust safety net for those facing homelessness and other crises. Finally, my vision for our city is that Tacoma celebrates our diversity as our core strength and exemplifies that by working together, we build a brighter future. I'm Conor McCarthy. I would be honored to have your support and your vote and to continue to serve you. So thank you.
Thank you. Courtney Love.
Thank you. My priorities in general include preservation of democracy, which includes anti-corruption, getting money out of politics, and election reform, I want to end desperation, which includes housing security, food security, and healthcare security. And I want to save the planet, which includes the Green New Deal and permaculture, which is the action arm of the sustainability movement. These are my core values and what I will use to determine how I respond to city issues. I want to see a city that has a tighter social safety net because people are slipping through the one we have now. And I want to see an even and equitable distribution of services throughout the city where housing is not, low-income housing is not prioritized in only 1 or 2 areas of town, but throughout town, and to have mixed-use centers and small business opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Brett Johnson.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here today. I would just like to kind of take a minute to close out and comment that this is my first experience for elected campaign. So if you noticed any jitters today, it's because this is the first time I've been on camera talking about my political views. So hopefully we'll improve with the next few exposures. I am more or less we'll call a man in the middle. I'm a compromiser, and I favor common sense solutions with an equitable solution or an equitable outcome for everybody. And I look forward to serving everybody's interests to the best of my ability, and I thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you to all the candidates, Conor McCarthy, Courtney Love, and Brett Johnson, for being here and helping you ensure that your vote is an educated one. Now, don't forget to use it. These are candidates for Tacoma City Council, position 7 at large. And I also want to thank our questioners, the Community Council of Tacoma, the volunteers from the League of Women Voters of Tacoma Pierce County, the wonderful crew from TV Tacoma, our audience, and all those who've submitted questions. Primary election is Tuesday, August 6th. If you're mailing your ballot, get it in early. If you're using a drop box, you have till 8 o'clock on the 6th. Thank you for being here or watching and for making your vote count.